Hello guys and welcome back. In today's video we're going to be asking one very hard question to answer, and that is, what is the best weapon in Mount & Blade Warband? Now the reason why it's so hard to answer that is because different weapons were made and put in the game for different situations. For instance, pikes are used for anti-cavalry and arming swords are used with shields to initiate quick attacks. Another reason why it's so hard to answer this question is because it's up to each player's preference. Each player prefers a different weapon. For example, I will try and avoid using weapons that do not have a stab attack. That's why I prefer using the maces. For example, the knob mace or the spike mace, because I always do accidental stab attacks in the middle of a fight. It will result in a blunt hit, and then it basically makes me a very easy target for the attacker. But then again, some people may never accidentally do that thrust attack and may be very good at using those kind of weapons. As there are so many weapons in Warband, I think the best way to approach this is to try and find a weapon that basically works in almost every single category, whether that's one-on-one fighting in duels, whether that's taking out cavalry, or whether that's group fighting. I'd like to stress, these are only going to be weapons found in native multiplayer. First of all, I'm going to give my opinion on what weapon is the best in each particular category, whether that's one-handers, two-handers, or polearms. And then I'll try and move on and find a weapon that's good at, well, almost everything. The best one-handed weapon, in my opinion, is the spiked one-handed battle axe. It does a 37 cutting attack, however, it does not have that 4 attack directions that the arming sword does. But its speed rating as well as attacking damage just makes up for that. It just does so much damage. It also has the ability to break down shields, making it very effective in group fighting because you can smack down someone's shield, and if they can't block, they're an easy target. It's very difficult to decide which one-hander you'd use. As a one-hander and shield, I'd definitely go for the spiked one-handed battle axe, maybe the iron war axe, but it just is a little bit slower and I always prefer the quicker weapon. But if I was just using a one-hander and nothing else, I'd go with the arming sword because it's very quick, and it also does 4 attack directions, and you can basically attack the enemy in 4 different ways instead of 3. Moving on to two-handed weapons, and this again is very hard to decide. Now, if I was going into a duel, I'd definitely choose a greatsword because for one-on-one combat, they are so good. They're quick, they do high damage, and they have 4 attack directions. However, if I found myself in a situation, for example, a 10 versus 10 group fight, I would definitely go with the two-handed war axe. The reason behind this is because it does a lot of damage. Well, for a two-hander, it does a decent amount with 44 cutting, but it also has a very high speed rating at 96, which is very good. I can basically spam it, and that's what I'm good at in Warband. I spam a lot, and I'm sure people hate spammers, but for group fighting, two-handed war axes are just phenomenal. You can smash down so many shields with it. They go down in like 2, maybe 3 hits, and it's absolutely brilliant. Now, if I had to choose between the greatsword and the two-handed war axe in every situation, I would go with the two-handed war axe, and I'm pretty sure you guys might be a little bit surprised about this. Now, I'm really interested to know which two-handers you prefer, because it's always been a mystery to me because everybody likes different things. Like for me personally, the two-handed war axe is brilliant and I love using it. Its range isn't the best, but it just is so quick and it does a decent amount of damage and it can crush through shields. Now, make sure to leave a comment on which two-handed weapon you like the best. Moving on to polearms, I would say the pike is the most effective polearm. Now, the reason behind this is because it can easily take out cavalry without a problem. It's also okay in group fights because you can use its range to actually stab people that are nowhere near you, maybe fighting someone else. But if you were going to use a pike in a duel situation, you'll get absolutely destroyed because you'll be blunt hitting as the enemy will just be coming towards you. So in 1v1s, pikes are not very good. But if I had to choose a polearm above anything else, I would definitely go for the pike. The next category is one-hander / two-hander weapons. Now again, in my opinion, I think the Morning Star is the best one-hander / two-hander. It's brilliant on cavalry using it as a one-hander, but as infantry using it as a two-hander is vital. You have to use it as a two-hander, and it's absolutely brilliant. You can crush through blocks, it does so much damage, and it's not too slow, but compared to things like greatswords, you're going to get beaten in one-on-one situations, but in group fights, it's absolutely perfect. Next up, we have the ranged weapons. These are split into 3 different categories. We have throwing weapons, we have bows, and we have crossbows. In terms of throwing weapons, I'd have to go with the throwing axes, just because they do so much damage. Also, you can just switch them out of throwing mode and start attacking with a 98 speed rating, which is brilliant. They haven't got the best range when you're trying to use them in melee, but for throwing, they're absolutely brilliant. Moving on to crossbows, I would have to say the main discussion is between the siege crossbow and the heavy crossbow. The heavy crossbow is the better of the two, in my opinion, because you can reload it quicker. It does have less damage, but to be fair, in native multiplayer, you find yourself against weakly armored targets most of the time, especially in early rounds, especially in things like sieges. So damage isn't too much a problem because it's going to be 2-hit kill, maybe 3-hit kill at the most, and the damage modifier isn't going to change that too much. It's more about how many shots away you get and how quickly you get those shots away and into the target. In multiplayer, whenever I'm offered an option of bows, I always go for the first option on the list. You know, when you select your bow, I always go for the first one. Now that's because it always is the quickest firing, and I love the bow that fires the quickest because I can get as many shots off as possible. And obviously you have lightly armored targets most of the time, so you're going to kill them a lot quicker, or that's what I find anyway. And I just really love using the quick bows. You can spam them quite a lot. They're good for close quarter combat as well, and often in sieges they're quite useful for shooting down people breaking gates, or just generally shooting people. They're just so good for it, and I prefer them over things like the longbow, which just takes so long to draw back and fire. It does high damage, but I still prefer the quicker firing, smaller bows. So that's the end of the categories, and now it's time to decide which weapon is the best at most situations. So we want to take into consideration close quarter fighting, including duels and that sort of thing. We want to include group fighting, taking out multiple enemies, and we also want to include taking out things such as cavalry. Now, I think there's 2 options here. One is the great sword, the other is the great long axe. Again, one-handed weapons are pretty bad at taking out cavalry, so I really want to exclude them. Polearms are only really good at taking out cavalry and kind of supporting other players in group fighting, and pretty rubbish at duels. Whereas two-handers are kind of across the board, they're quite good. They're decent at taking out cavalry as long as they've got a good range, like the great long axe and, well, like the great sword. They're good at group fighting, especially the great long axe, because you can smash down shields very, very quickly and get some hits in. But if you get attacked by too many people, you're just going to get overwhelmed. The great sword in group fighting isn't the best, in my opinion, because you get quite a lot of blunt hits, especially if people with one-handers and shields are closing in on you. But against other two-handers, it's particularly effective. Now, to decide between the two is very difficult. But personally, I'm going to go with the greatsword because it's fairly decent at taking out cavalry using the jumping and then stabbing attack. That usually takes out the rider if they're not wearing the best armor in the world. It's also very good at taking out horses. I would also say it's very good at group fighting. You can get behind players, you do a lot of damage, you can also thrust attack. You can basically keep them at bay, but when they do get close to you, it's going to become increasingly difficult, especially if there's a lot of players coming for you. So that is my final verdict, and I can understand why this video may be very controversial for many old-time Warband players as well as new players, because it's all down to personal preference at the end of the day. It's very hard to make a non-biased opinion on something that I've been playing for 2 years, and I've just kind of got used to the weapons that I'm good at. Other people would have got used to weapons that they're good at. But besides, make sure to leave your comments down below on the best weapon across all the different situations, as well as weapons that you think are better in one situation, but are pretty fucking rubbish in the others. Finally, I would like to say a few things for the people that are coming towards the end of the video. You're most likely a long-time subscriber or something like that. And that is, the past few weeks have been fairly difficult for me for reasons I don't particularly want to go into. But I am trying to upload the best quality content I can possibly do. And it's also content that I enjoy making. I enjoy making information videos because I'm discovering new things. I'm giving you guys new things that aren't the same every single time, like my Persistent World videos. I see so many comments of people saying that they're getting bored of them and that they are the same thing each time, whereas these information videos are never exactly the same. They're always different, whether that's a different game, whether that's a different sort of analysis, whether it's a different section of the game, instead of just seeing the same thing over and over again. I'm interested in doing a lot more events because events are always so unique in themselves. I really want to do a Napoleonic Wars Trafalgar style battle or sea battle. That would be so cool on Mount and Blade Warband. Make sure to leave your comments on any videos you would like to see on the channel that are unique and are slightly different from what I've done before, basically. There's something else that I've been contemplating for a while now, and that is creating a second channel for more real life stuff. Now, in a month or so, I think in a couple of months, I'm going to Geneva in Switzerland, and this is pretty much the main reason why I want to start this, amongst many other outings that I'm doing over the next year. But basically, I'm going to CERN, which is a massive science experiment where they accelerate hadrons underground, smash them into each other, and basically find out what happens after that. Hadrons are basically particles. It's a long story. I'm not going to bore you with it, but some of the stuff that happens at Geneva, as well as CERN, is absolutely stunning. The place is beautiful, and I would really like to record it and show you guys, and try and make it as interesting as possible. I think I have skills in that department, as well as making gaming videos. Anyway, guys, I think that will do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit like if you're new here, and make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're new. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching yet again. I hope you have an absolutely brilliant day, and I will see you in the next one.
Are you coming to the tree? They strung up a man, they say murdered 3. Strange things did happen here, no stranger would